In a time when faith was the first becoming the strongest weapon, the Inquisition, a child that stretched across centuries.
People didn't just believe in God, they got used to living under the ace of those who claimed to speak for them.
But what is fair?
What is fear?
Back in the time of the Inquisition, people used to witness public trials and executions. How did that affect their daily lives? Do you think they got used to see violence as part of justice?
Well, I think that culturally there is a very strong and undeniable link between violence and the concept of justice. I say this partly because of the historical context of the Middle Ages, a period where, let's say, in order to punish individuals for their transgressions, they frequently employed extremely violent and often brutal methods, right? This historical perspective provides a clear illustration of how deeply intertwined these two concepts have been throughout human history. Burning people alive, dismemberment, and so on. Those were public acts. People would gather in a square to watch these punishments, and they were violent forms, but it was a way to educate people so they wouldn't break the law. If you look at it in today's context, well, maybe not in the current context. Well, in the Colombian context, it could still happen, for example, when someone commits a robbery and there's a public lynching. That's a violent act, but people believe that by doing it, they're carrying out justice, right? So many times the law says, no, that's what the legal system is for, to convict, but sometimes people, perhaps in their eagerness to take justice into their own hands, end up implicitly accepting violence. And you could see this in the United States as well. I don't know about other countries, but I think in China the death penalty is accepted, and in places where the death penalty is also a public spectacle. Maybe now with much more modern methods, not as torturous as in the Middle Ages, let's say, when they punished the body. Now it's just an injection and that's it. But it's still a violent way, and people accept it, they associate it, and believe that those deaths, those people who are tortured, are done in the name of justice.
They prayed every morning and they heard the screams every night. People were used to kneeling before the altar and were used to seeing their neighbors accused. Some got used to justice and others got used to obedience. The terror didn't just punish, it became part.
Do you think society used to be more controlled by religion than it is today?
Well, if we look at it from the broader perspective of modernity, that is to say from the late 19th century or even from the mid-16th century, religion as a significant socio-cultural control apparatus, its pervasive influence has been steadily decreasing. For example, in the Western world, especially if we are referring to this particular historical and cultural context, we can clearly observe that the arrival and widespread adoption of Protestantism has significantly reduced the extensive control that religion itself traditionally exerts over the general population, leading to a more secularized societal structure. And when we talk about that same timeline also in the West, from the 19th century with the arrival of modernism, more so than modernity itself, right? When we talk about technological advancement, when we also talk about a shift in the axis of thought, we realize that the influence of religion has declined just as the great institutions, empires and kingdoms once did. This is based on a text, an author named Louis Althusser, a French philosopher from the mid-20th century, who defined religion as an ideological state apparatus. And the influence or power that religion once had has, for example, shifted to the educational apparatus. Education now exerts a greater influence over individuals, although religion still plays a very important and notable role in not only in Western societies. We can see that the influence it had, some time ago has been decreasing.
What's the difference between being used to believing or being forced to believe?
Okay, well, I think the difference between getting used to believing and being forced to believe has to do with time and context. Getting used to something has to do with habits, with models. In other words, I have to be immersed in a context where I see that people believe in something, and I will probably get used to or adapt to that belief. And being forced to believe in something means that it can happen suddenly in an imposed way. It could be that I see contradictions and that I am completely opposed to that belief, but because of power dynamics, I am being forced to do it.
The decision ended, but fear has a way of control never disappear. People used to believe it was the only way to protect their fate. Now we're forced to decide what we're getting used to and whether we are willing to break the cycle.